Hey everybody, welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill. It is time for a new episode. I'm going to show you guys some stuff today. We're going to do a little bit. We're going to look around. We're going to explore. We're going to find out what's going on in the world. We're going to get a look at things. Right now you're looking at my Twitter. I love X. It's broken. Don't get me wrong. It's broken as fuck. But it's better than Facebook. It's broken in a different way. What would be the best way to explain it? Doesn't work still, but different than Facebook. Broken in a different way than Facebook. This is my Twitter, my X. If you want to follow me, this is where you go to the Dark MAGA, at the Dark MAGA, THA Dark MAGA. Come find me there. I'm Sean. Look at me. I'm pretty. Got Biden looking over my shoulder, keeping a lookout because he's got sharp eagle eyes, as you can see. Those are eagle eyes you're seeing right there on Biden. And he's a good man. This is my feed. You're going to find all kinds of things. Me here. All the best stuff of me. A lot of it is garbage right now because I'm learning how to stream. As you can see, that's a stream where I'm walking around the block. Pretty intense. Look at that. I'm quite a cameraman. You're getting to see my area right there in a way that only a Mongoloid could film while not paying any attention to what he's filming in the daylight. It's a pretty nice stream, though. I go to get Lucy's at a gas station, and you find out how bad service is at gas stations in this country. In Connecticut, anyway. Bodegas, exclusively talking about right now. But this is Conspiracy Theories and Chill. This is a show that we're going to do from time to time. Right now, a little bit here, a little bit X, a little bit Facebook. Eventually, we're going to pay for Steamyard again when we get our money up, and then we're going to do it in all three places at the same time. How would that be? Now we're going to do a little bit each place because right now we're trying it out. We're getting the wheels greased up. We're going to learn what this bad boy can do and what it can't do, more specifically, which is most things right now. So it can't do most things, which is show me on camera is one of them. So we're going to start with a video. But first, I want to tell you a quick story. This story has to do with this man, Charlie C. Tan from Twitter. He is the CEO of SpaceX. All right. He was messaging me on X yesterday for a while and then called me on my phone, the phone that rings and you talk to people on. He called me on it and I freaked out and told him he was an agent and he blocked me. Turns out dude was really the CEO of SpaceX. Why was he following me? What is this? How come the CEO of SpaceX only has 2,164 followers? But as you can see, 53,500 posts. All right. That's a picture of the dude. I looked him up on Google. It's him. It's a verified account, as you can see right there. It's a checkmark account. Blue check. Charlie C. Tan. At Charlie Chatan. 2,000 followers. CEO of SpaceX. And also controls Tesla, he told me. Wanted to talk to me about the natural disasters going on in the world until I mentioned HARP, 5G, and weather manipulation. Then he told me to have a good day. Then I called him an agent. Then he called me on the phone. Then he blocked me. This happened yesterday. It's pretty crazy, right? Day before that, I talked to the lead singer of Def Leppard, which is why I don't really think that I talked to this dude. I don't know, though. I don't. He said he was him. I Googled him. He called me on my phone when the name was his, Charlie Tan. I hung up on it and told him an agent and asked him if he felt like he was in control, and the guy blocked me. That's the crazy shit that happens. That would be why Luke is crying for me. He found out Leia's his sister and can't hit. He can't get it in. He would be crying because of that. That's why I would be crying. That seems like a good reason to cry. But I want to show you guys something, and it's videos. That's what we're going to do today. Look at some videos that I made, videos of mine. And it's going to be pretty amazing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to watch some old conspiracy theories and chill, hang out between the videos. The first video I'm going to play for you today is on John Titor, a space time traveler. He's from the future, from the year 2025, I think, this year. Maybe later than that, though. Maybe 2225. I'm not sure. He's from the future, and he's going to tell us his story through my voice here in this video called John Titor Time Traveler on my Rumble channel. I want you to watch this video with me, and I want you to check it out. And afterwards, we're going to hang out. In 14 minutes, I'll be back with you after John Titor Time Traveler to prep you for the next one on today's CTC Conspiracy Theories and Chill Tester Variety Show. It's Sean. I'll be right back with you. Let's watch John Teeter, Time Traveler. America falls into a bloody civil war in which millions of people are killed, and this brutal war progresses into a nuclear world war in which billions more are killed. The devastation is immense. Food becomes scarce, and then in 2038, all computers go down. Power grids fail, and society gets set back hundreds of years into a second dark age. Is this a description of our future? Or did a time traveler from the year 2036 go back in time to save us all from these apocalyptic events? Well, tonight on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to explore this possibility as we look into the tale of time traveler John Teeter. Back in 1998, on the Coast to Coast radio show, host Art Bell was looking for time travelers on a segment called Open Timelines, and during his show, he received a fax that caught his attention. It read, "Dear Art, I had to fax when I heard other time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. Offshoots of certain successful fusion reactor research allowed scientists at CERN to produce the world's first contained singularity engine. The basic design involves rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. By altering the speed and direction of rotation, you can travel both forward and backward in time. Time itself can be understood in terms of connected lines. When you go back in time, you travel on your original timeline. When you turn your singularity engine off, a new timeline is created due to the fact that you and your time machine are now there. In other words, a new universe is created. To get back to your original line, you must travel a split second farther back and immediately throw the engine into forward without turning it off. Some interesting outcomes of this are, 1. You meet yourself. I have done it often, even taken a younger version of myself along for a few rides before returning myself to the new timeline and going back to mine. 2. You can alter history in the new universe that you have just created. Most of the time, the changes are subtle. Sometimes I'll notice car models that don't exist or books that come out late. The oldest one was a skyscraper that wasn't built in a near favorite store of mine in New York. Interestingly, when you travel in time, you must compensate for the orbit of the Earth. Since the time machine doesn't move, you have to adjust the engine so you remain on the planet when you turn it off. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that anyone going forward in time from my 2036 hit a brick wall in the year 2564. Everyone who has ever been there has reported that nothing exists. When the machine is turned off, you find yourself surrounded by blackness and silence. Now, most time travelers are trying to find out where the line went bad by going into the past, creating a new universe, and proceeding forward to see if the same thing results in 2564. It appears that the line went bad around the year 2000. I'm here now in this time to test a few theories of mine before going forward. Now, for the future you might want to know about. 1. Y2K is a disaster. Many people die on the highways when they freeze to death trying to get to warmer weather. 2. The government tries to keep power by instituting martial law, but all of it collapses when their efforts to bring the power back up fail. 3. A power facility in Denver is able to restart itself, but is mobbed by hundreds of thousands of people and destroyed. This convinces most that maybe we shouldn't bring the old power system back up. 4. A few years later, a communal government system is developed after the Constitution takes a few twists. China retakes Taiwan. Israel wins the largest battle for their life, and Russia is covered in nuclear snow from their collapsed reactors. Art, the reason I'm here now is because I believe a nuclear weapon set off by Iraq in the Middle East war with Israel might have something to do with the damaged timeline. I will test that theory and get back to you. Please pray that we discover the reason why there is no apparent future after 2564. A second fax was sent to Art Bell a few days later, and then nothing until a few years later on the coast-to-coast message boards, when the time traveler finally revealed his name and that he was a temporal soldier. He claimed that he had been selected for the project due to his paternal heritage. His father's father had worked for IBM in the 1970s and had worked to create the IBM 5100, an early computer model. Teeter said that in the year 2036, he had been selected to travel back to 1975 and obtain an IBM 5100 to prevent the Unix computer shutdown of 2038. Now, why would someone from 2036 want an 80-year-old computer? Well, the Unix computer shutdown was going to be caused because it was designed on a 32-bit system, and the timestamp would run out on Tuesday, January 19, 2038. The way to fix this was to upgrade the system to 64-bit, and they needed the IBM 5100 for this because it had a secret function. The function, which IBM suppressed because of worries about how their competition might use it, was an interface between the assembly code surrounding the computer's ROM exterior and the 360 emulator hidden beneath it. The 5100's emulator gave programmers access to the functions of the monstrous and much less portable machines that IBM had produced during the 1960s. An imprint of a hook on the outside of the 5100 symbolized the ability of Dubke's interface to drop into what Teeter called legacy code and scoop out any necessary operating instructions. This actually turns out to be true of the 5100 and a secret that IBM had closely guarded. Now, John Teeter was very active in the message boards, and he answered most questions asked. I read through his posts, and I will link them in the description. In them, he comes off as very knowledgeable and open. Over the course of his posts, he describes his time machine, even sharing pages of the owner's manual and pictures of the unit. He describes the basic systems for a gravity distortion system that will allow time travel. He says you need magnetic housing units for dual microsingularities, electron injection manifold to alter mass and gravity of microsingularities, cooling and X-ray venting system, gravity sensors and variable gravity lock, main clocks, 4 cesium units, and a main computer unit. He described traveling through time in his own words. When asked what does traveling in time look like, he said the unit has a ramp-up time after the destination coordinates are fed into the computers. An audible alarm and a small light start a short countdown, at which point you should be secured in a seat. The gravity field generated by the unit overtakes you very quickly. You feel a tug towards the unit similar to rising quickly in an elevator, and it continues to rise based on the power setting the unit is working under. At 100% power, the constant pull of gravity can be as high as 2 Gs or more, depending on how close you are to the unit. There are no serious side effects, but I try to avoid eating before a flight. No bright flash of light is seen. Outside, the vehicle appears to accelerate as the light is bent around it. We have to wear sunglasses or close our eyes as this happens due to a short burst of ultraviolet radiation. Personally, I think it looks like you're driving under a rainbow. After that, it appears to fade to black and remains totally black until the unit is turned off. We are advised to keep the windows closed as a great deal of heat builds up outside the car. The gravity field also traps a small air pocket around the car that acts as your only O2 supply unless you bring compressed air with you. And this pocket will only last for a short period, and a carbon sensor tells us when it's too dangerous. The C204 unit is accurate from 50 to 60 years a jump and travels at about 10 years an hour at 100% power. You do hear a slight hum as the unit operates and when the power changes or the unit turns off. And there is a great deal of electrical crackling noise from static electricity. In the post, he even goes into his own beliefs and describes the future itself, saying, yes, I believe in Jesus Christ, and we pray to God in churches. There are some differences you may be interested in. Religion is a major part of people's life in 2036. Pain and change tend to bring people together and closer to God. However, religion is far more personal than it is now. There are no huge centralized religions, and people talk openly about their beliefs. It might also interest you to know that the day of worship is Saturday, the day God meant to be the Sabbath, and the 10 commandments have been restored to the 10 that God gave us. Life is much more rural in the future, but high technology is used to communicate and travel. People raise a great deal of their own food and do more farm work. Yes, compared to now, we do work long hours. After the war, my father made a living selling oranges up and down the west coast of Florida. My closest friend raises horses and another works for a company that maintains wireless internet nodes. Life has changed so much over my lifetime that it's hard to pin down a normal day. When I was 13, I was a soldier. As a teenager, I helped my dad haul cargo. I went to college when I was 31, and I was recruited to time travel shortly after that. Again, I suppose an average day in 2036 is like an average day on the farm. Yes, there is a post office. The internet is still alive and well in the future. People spend more time talking because life is more centered on the community. I've noticed the same type of effect here when the power goes off. People tend to come out of their homes and actually spend time with their neighbors. There is a lot more personal trust and less paranoia. When I'm with my parents, I live in a community made up of tree houses on a large river in Florida. The river floods sometimes and we have access to the Gulf. Most of our neighbors make a living off the sea or in moving cargo by boat. There is a civil war in the United States that starts in 2005. That conflict flares up and down for 10 years. Russia launches a nuclear strike against the major cities in the United States, China, and Europe, and the United States counterattacks. The U.S. cities are destroyed along with the AFE, the American Federal Empire. Thus, we, the people, win. The European Union and China were also destroyed. Russia is now our largest trading partner, and the capital of the U.S. was moved to Omaha, Nebraska. When asked about future technologies that we could look forward to, he says that I hesitate to answer, but I'll give you a bit. Hydrogen fuel cells and much more efficient solar cells are big deals. Computer technology and software get much better. He goes on to say that not too much is different in the future, except the military is a large part of people's life, and we spend a great deal of time in the fields and farms at the university or fort. And most of his memories of growing up are not fond. Life was very hard. Simple things make him happy, like hugging his mother and father. He says that yes, they have cameras, more digital, and film is used like painting is today, but no hologram cameras though. He says they have phones, but the service is through the internet. Most power generation is localized, and he says that solar power is big. He says that the elderly are highly revered and looked after on a community level, and so are orphans, and there is always something people can do no matter what. The idea of avoiding work is looked down on. Everyone pulls together to keep the community strong. He says that the Constitution was changed after the war, and that they have 5 presidents that are voted in and out on different term periods. The vice president is the president of the Senate, and they are voted for separately. He says that there are cars, but there's just not a whole bunch of them, and it's mostly public transportation from city to city. Now, John Teeter's posts are very interesting, and he is surely very knowledgeable about the physics of time travel. He's very convincing, and I can see why many people believe John is actually a time traveler that saved us from disaster. But I should note that Joseph Matheny, the man also claiming responsibility for the legend of Ong's hat, claims to have been involved on the team responsible for creating Teeter. And the lawyer for the Teeter Foundation, Larry Faber, and his brother Richard, a computer scientist, are also believed to have created the John Teeter story. But both claims are unproven. So what do you think of the John Teeter story? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching Conspiracy Theories and Chill. All right, that was old John Teeter, the John Teeter video, the fantastic John Teeter Conspiracy Theories and Chill super video. The reserve. Oh, sorry. But it was a huge insurance scam. Right, something else is playing. Let me shut that down. We might watch that. I don't know. That's the Titanic video, Titanic swap. But that was John Teeter, and that is an interesting video. Trump is involved in that. Did y'all know that? Trump's family grandpa or uncle, great uncle, one of the two, was involved with Nikola Tesla. When Tesla spent his last years in a New Yorker hotel, John Trump was kind of a handler of his and then went through his belongings upon his death. Trump's great uncle or whatever went through Tesla's belongings to see what was valuable to the government. And who's to say there was a couple trunks missing? Who's to say some of that didn't end up in Trump's family chest in order to use it to increase his wealth, increase his power, put him in a position to be able to help people, to lead us, to take us out of, this nightmare that we're in. But let's watch another video real quick. We're going to watch a video on Montauk Project. It has to do with homeless time travelers. This is something we actually did. The CIA actually did this during the Montauk projects. And Montauk, those were top secret projects where our government did some horrific things in order to advance different agendas, etc. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about what happened there when we get into homeless time travelers here in just a second. But until we do that, let me get back through what we've been saying here. This was accurate, bro. You're right, Frazier. Frazier's right. The last part, his earlier predictions did not come true. They must have done something with that Commodore 64. And then after that, it's very accurate what happens leading up to 2500s. Because in 2300s, we're back to Jesus times, basically. It sounds like he's ruling on the earth. We're celebrating the Sabbath. We're back in our faith. Faith is very important on the planet. What's that sound like to you? And then something goes horribly wrong, I guess, in 2564, or time just stops. Is that the end? Is that when this becomes heaven? The beta program for creation becomes finite and done? I don't know, but it does sound like it's going to be just us left here pretty soon. And the people that are connected to things will be in danger. People like me, people like Christians, people like truthers are going to be in danger. And I'm already on a list, Frazier. He says you'll be put on a list for doing stuff like this. I'm already on a list. It's okay. Why is Luke crying? Wrong answers only. Let's decide why Luke is crying. I said because he found out Leia's his sister and he can't get it in. It could be because he found out his dad is Darth Vader and he could have been getting sweet child support his whole life and grew up on a sand planet. He could be pissed off about that. But think about why Luke's crying, and we're going to watch Homeless Time Travelers, a video by me from Conspiracy Theories and Chill for you guys as part of our random test to see if this is working and how it's going. Comment during the video. This is Homeless Time Travelers. It's about an MK Ultra experimental thing that happened with homeless people, and it's true. It's declassified. Look it up for yourself. You will see that I'm right and that this is disgusting. Let's enjoy right now Homeless Time Travelers by me. In the 1950s, the CIA was kidnapping homeless people right off of the streets and forcing them to take part in top secret time travel experiments. Many of these men, women, and children died in these experiments. Most of them were lost forever, and the rest had their minds wiped clean or were just left abandoned and too insane to ever be able to tell their tales. These desperate and forgotten people were taken and experimented on in a myriad of horrific ways by the government-funded mad scientists, the majority of which were Nazi war criminals that we imported for the purpose of continuing this barbaric paranormal research. And all of this was carried out under the umbrella of the top-secret Montauk Project, which was itself just an offshoot of a much larger CIA project called MK Ultra. So keep in mind as we explore Project Montauk that this is only one of 149 known sub-projects of MK Ultra. And this is only one tale of many from Project Montauk. Welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill. In this video, we are going to look into the homeless time travelers who were kidnapped, coerced, and forced against their will into taking part in experimental procedures with the intent of sending these individuals through time. After the success of the spontaneous object creation project, which is exactly what it sounds like, as crazy as what I just said sounds coming out of my mouth, they were creating objects with their minds, accessing and using the primitive mind instead of the conscious mind. What that means is that this conscious mind would be suppressed and a more primitive mind would be allowed to become active. This primitive mind was highly suggestible, very controllable, and tended to act by focusing all of its power on a single object, allowing for much greater displays of power than if the conscious mind had acted alone. And after about a year of testing, the Montauk chair, a whole other device that we will need to explore, was shown to be working flawlessly. But now, instead of just transmitting thoughts, the researchers wanted to try something new, creating solid objects. The idea was for the subject to visualize an object and, provided that there was sufficient power coming from the transmitter, be able to materialize it somewhere else on the base. This process was not exact, however, as some objects remained intangible and others faded as soon as the transmitter was shut off. But they found if given sufficient power, subjects were found to be able to create permanent objects. The size and type of these objects seemed only to be limited by the subject's imagination, and it is said that they even materialized entire buildings during the course of these experiments. During this, it was discovered that a side effect of the test was that the flow of time was altered when objects that were being materialized appeared earlier or later than they were actually meant to. And this caused Montauk to enter a third phase of research. It was found that by focusing their psychic energy, they could open what was referred to as a time tunnel. As you can imagine, initial versions of the time tunnels were not structurally sound, and rather than send government researchers to their certain doom, they began to kidnap large numbers of homeless people to use as test subjects. According to researchers, scientists at Montauk would spend only about a week prepping the men, women, and children for their trips through time. And if they managed to return, they were expected to make a full report of whatever they found on the other side. But most of the test subjects never returned, and many died in the experiments. They decided to prey on the homeless because they not only devalued them, but they also would not be missed. No one is coming looking for these people. Society has forgotten them. So they went out in mass and kidnapped these desperate people, placed food and shelter before them with a condition that they allow themselves to be experimented on in return. And they hooked them up to powerful machines, pumped them full of massive doses of mind-altering drugs, and proceeded to expose them to electrical currents and powerful magnetic devices. They played around in their minds at will and sent them physically through the fabric of time with no concern at all for their personal safety or mental health. Real people. This took place officially for decades and was completely government sanctioned.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. Informed consent means your doctor tells you the risk of the treatment you are about to undergo. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment, and that was wrong. So today, on behalf of another generation of American leaders and another generation of American citizens, the United States of America offers a sincere apology to those of our citizens who were subjected to these experiments, to their families, and to their communities. When the government does wrong, we have a moral responsibility to admit it. The duty we owe to one another to tell the truth and to protect our fellow citizens from excesses like these is one we can never walk away from. Our government's failed in that duty, and it offers an apology to the survivors and their families, and to all the American people who must be able to rely upon the United States to keep its word, to tell the truth, and to do the right thing.
How it is my belief that this never stopped, and that these forgotten people are still to this very day subjected to these horrific experiments and much, much more. Human lab rats that no one will miss or come looking for, left insane or buried in unmarked graves to never be seen again. So, and I'm sure that we will be saying this many times in our Mon Talk series, whenever someone tells you that the government isn't capable of doing unspeakable things to its very own citizens, point them to things such as these homeless time travelers and others like them who have had their lives stolen and destroyed in the interest of government science. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time right here on Conspiracy Theories and Chill. All right, guys, that was Homeless Time Travelers. Another video from the fantastic group at Conspiracy Theories and Chill, where all of your best videos come to you timely manner and years ago. I'm just kidding. So this has been fun, man. We're having fun. So we're going to watch a few other videos, real quick ones. We're going to watch one on Marilyn Monroe's death. We're going to want to watch one on how to end this insanity. And we're going to want to watch one on I like Trump. Let's watch a video on why I like Trump. This is old. Want to see why I like Trump from a few years ago? Why I liked him back then and why I still like him now, I bet. We're going to find that out in a minute. 1 year ago, why did I like Donald Trump? Donald J. Trump. This guy, Queen Heat, here from this video where I'm going to talk about liking Donald, is going to give me a little shit. I want to read it real quick. So this person on this video that you're about to watch said, just my little 2 cents. I'm well aware that he is not the second coming, but from my own observations, he's on a mission from God. Trump on a mission from God. We all mess up. If anyone here doesn't, they can throw the first stone. I know I've messed up. I can't throw any stones. Judging by his fruits, he's been a good president both times. I love him this time. I liked him last time. I liked him when he wasn't president even. And pray that he achieves his mission. I do, because I want success for that man, because the success means we did well. This guy says what Trump promised. He promised to build the wall, drain the swamp, and lock her up. What he delivered: fiat, gun control, bump stock ban, red flag regs, warp speed. Yep. Operation Warp Speed, lockdowns, vax bypass federal regulations. First time ever. And they've done many since. All the boosters, no federal regulations. 8 trillion accumulated in debt, paid out mostly to the super, super rich. And then this person says, I wonder why when I give a thumbs down here, it turns into a thumbs up. Withdrawn. I believe that most of us are well aware that Trump is a mortal and is not Jesus Christ. On the other side of the coin, I do get sick of explaining warp speed to people, and I'm one of the original anti-vaxxers in the oldest generation that's still alive. So many Monday morning armchair quarterbacks thinking they know the ins and outs, the moves, the risks, the restrictions, the other team, and how it should all be accomplished when they don't know squat. One has to be paying very close attention to follow to some extent what's going on. We can't know it all, and it's very complicated, but I think I have a grasp on the bigger picture, and Trump is not doing this all by himself. I don't think he is either. Why don't we see what I thought about Trump from a year ago and see how closely it lines up to what we're seeing of him now. So this is what I thought about Trump from a year ago today. Let's check it out. So now we have him as president again. What was my problem with him? Let's see. So Rat Bastard, for instance, just asked if I believe that the evil in power had ever told Trump their population control scheme. Trump is not a politician. Trump is a believer in Christ, a warrior of light. I don't attribute all that to Trump. I don't think Trump's a bad person, but I don't give him those hero qualities. And I believe that Trump is a con artist. And again, I'm not saying he's a bad person, just a confidence man. He knows how to work his audience. He knows how to say all the right things to get your support and make you believe in him and make you love him. I don't think he's bad, but I also don't think he's a warrior of light. You know what I mean? I think that is a lot of wishful thinking. People want a hero, you know? They want to believe in this stuff. I get it, but I'm not buying it. Again, I would love to be proven wrong, but he's been president before. He couldn't even stop them rigging an election against him. And then again, I have to remind you of Operation Warp Speed. That's killed untold amount of people. We won't know. Even Bill Gates himself told you it'll take years before you really know the true side effects of this vaccine. What we've seen already is atrocious. He allowed that. And earlier somebody was like, don't sheepdog for the system and be a fucking bullshit artist trying to say blame that on Trump. I'm just saying we got to hold him accountable. You're making it to where I can't support it because we're not holding him accountable. He did this. He signed away the Constitution over something he knew not to be an emergency and allowed them emergency authority and emergency powers to advance out to the public a vaccine that was not even tested. And those rights have not went away yet. He didn't mandate it. No, he didn't mandate it. He allowed it, though. He told you about other treatments, but he didn't push hard enough. He's the president. Everybody's got to stop giving him a pass. Somebody earlier told me I was an idiot for saying that. He knew about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, and in having either of those treatments existing makes it impossible for there to be emergency declaration. That could have got him out of it right there. And again, they'll make more justifications for it. That I find troubling, though, because we have to hold him accountable. You have to acknowledge the bad things. This is how he gets this hero, warrior of light, savior sent by God status, which is unrealistic. I don't like being that guy. To be real honest with you, I'm finding that out. I find it very uncomfortable to have to be the one to be like raining on everyone's parade. I get why you like him. I understand why he even looks like the only choice right now. I get all that, but I don't understand why you would even support the system. After everything that we know to be true, and after how comically rigged the last election was, how can you support it anymore? And what makes you think it would be legitimate? They pulled off the rigging of that election without being in power. Now they're in power. They still have their political opponents in prison awaiting trial. Like 800 of Trump's supporters are still sitting in cells as terrorists. I'm more worried about them than I am Trump. I'm more worried about everything that could go wrong, everything that has gone wrong, and everything that was made possible. And I didn't see any evidence in any of that make me think we'd be safe again under Trump. I know people give him credit for low gas prices and they think he's, a nationalist and cares about American values. He may even care about American values. I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm just saying that, in my opinion, in the times that I would have wanted him to take a stand, he didn't. He folded like a lawn chair. But he did say a lot of the right things. I'm more into actions than speech. Again, though, I would much rather just be like, yay, Trump. And I get it. Babels was mad at me. I had to stop talking about that Babels. That's an old person from my life that I don't want to reference anymore. She's horrible. So let's just talk about what would you throw Bill Gates if he was drowning? I would throw him a brick and a lot of insults veiled as encouragement. That's what I think I would throw him. But I decided we're going to end here with the mystery of Marilyn Monroe's death. I want to do one more, and it's going to be a video I made on the mysteries behind the death of Marilyn Monroe. That's going to be the end of our little stream here, and after that, we're going to wrap up. But this has been fun. I wanted to see what we could do here on the different platforms. It seems that YouTube is working the best so far. X failed dramatically, even on this test today. My test today went much better than last night. Last night on X was unwatchable. Streamyard does not work well on X. Seems to work better on YouTube, but I'm also not on camera now, and that's something new I'm trying. I'd have to try that on X to weigh that variable, see how much it improves it. But on camera, my internet cannot handle it. And I'm not blaming X. I'm blaming my internet. I only have 5G Wi-Fi in my house now. I don't have a hard wire anymore. So I don't even know if I can do live streaming. But we're going to play one more video and test it out, and then we're going to stop. This is on Marilyn Monroe and the mystery of her death. I'm Sean. This is Conspiracy Theories and Chill, and we'll be back soon. Hopefully on all three platforms in some kind of way. I don't know how this is going to go, and I don't know if Rumble's going to be one of them. Help me with that. Should Rumble be one of the platforms? Marilyn Monroe was found dead on August 5th, 1962, face down and naked in her bed. Her death was ruled a probable suicide, and for the most part, the public believed it. Marilyn Monroe, after all, had a reputation as a party girl and drug user. But right from the beginning, many theories arose challenging the quick suicide verdict, most likely because so much eyewitness testimony and pieces of evidence totally contradicted it. Many people believed, and still believe to this day, that Marilyn Monroe was murdered. In fact, the most prevalent theory has to do with a confrontation that she allegedly had on the last night of her life that would end up leading to her death. And this theory, if true, would destroy the reputations of some of the most revered political figures ever, people many consider to be American royalty. So tonight, on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to look at the final hours of Marilyn Monroe's life and explore whether her death was a suicide or if it was actually a murder orchestrated by Bobby Kennedy in order to silence her because she was about to reveal all of the dirty Kennedy family secrets that she had been keeping logged away in a little red diary. Marilyn Monroe shot to stardom in the 1950s as a curvaceous, comedic vixen loved by men and women alike. She grew from pinup girl to leading star and eventually into a cultural icon. Even today, she remains the embodiment of femininity. Images of her grace everything from t-shirts to bedding. And she is fixed in our cultural consciousness as forever young, blonde, and beautiful because she never got the opportunity to age gracefully. At just 36 years old, Marilyn was found dead in her home in Brentwood, California. Although it was officially ruled a suicide, suspicious circumstances surrounding her death sparked a string of conspiracies, suggesting there may have been more to it than meets the eye. Rumors began to swirl that the real cause of her death had been covered up by nefarious forces in the upper echelons of government. But why do these theories exist? Well, let's begin by looking at a timeline of Marilyn's final hours. At 7 p.m., Marilyn calls her friend Peter Lawford to cancel going to dinner at his house and instead goes to bed by 8 p.m. At midnight, her housekeeper is said to have noticed her bedroom light was still on. At 3 a.m., the housekeeper began to become concerned about the light still being on and noticed the door to her room was also locked. So at 3:30 a.m., the housekeeper is said to have called Dr. Ralph Greason, Marilyn's longtime psychiatrist, who heads over immediately and is the one who breaks into Marilyn's room, supposedly discovering her body. At 3:50 a.m., Dr. Greason pronounces Marilyn dead, but waits 35 more minutes before notifying the police. By 11 a.m., the coroner has ruled her death as a probable suicide from an overdose of sleeping pills. Even though the doctor who did the autopsy said there was no evidence of pills in her stomach or small intestines, and he later even wrote in a book that he believes now that her death was actually murder. Despite that, probable suicide was ruled as the cause. And many people claim that Marilyn Monroe's behavior was erratic during this time. And some proof of that is that she was actually fired from her last film. But insiders say that at this time she was having an intimate affair with the Kennedy brothers, both Jack and Bobby, who were said to have passed her back and forth like a football. Marilyn had apparently fallen hard for JFK, in fact, and had gotten it into her head that he was going to leave his wife for her, and this ambition, when expressed to the president by her, caused him to end communication with her and stop returning her calls. And on the last weekend of July 1962, while staying at a lodge with friends, Marilyn is said to have made the threat that led to her death. In a drunken and drug-fueled rant in a nightclub, she threatened to hold a press conference to expose the Kennedys. Just days later, she would be found dead from an apparent overdose of sleeping pills. Coincidence? Well, let's see if there's more. The day before Marilyn's death, her hairdresser claims she had a private meeting with mob boss Sam Giancana, who was acting on Bobby Kennedy's behalf to try to discourage her from carrying out her threat. The Attorney General had rumored to have offered to lighten up on Giancana in exchange for quieting Marilyn, but would he have made a deal with the mob boss? On the day of Marilyn's death, she is said to have had a visit by the Attorney General Robert Kennedy at 2:30 p.m. The Kennedys officially deny that Bobby was in L.A., saying he was in San Francisco, but the mayor of L.A. corroborates that Kennedy was in fact in Los Angeles staying at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and that he was told that by his own chief of police. In fact, close to 20 eyewitnesses placed Bobby Kennedy in L.A. the day of Marilyn Monroe's death, including her housekeeper, who states that he was in her home that day. So why was Bobby Kennedy at Marilyn Monroe's house? Many think it was not only to try to silence her, but also to get her infamous red diary in which she is said to have detailed her affairs with the Kennedys, which would be harmful if it were ever to go public. But what else places Bobby Kennedy at Marilyn Monroe's home? Well, it turns out a detective named Fred Otash, one of Hollywood's most notorious private detectives, had Marilyn's house bugged at the request of Jimmy Hoffa. And according to those who have heard the tapes, Bobby Kennedy returned to Marilyn's home that night and was not alone. So let's add what we've learned to our timeline. At 2:30 p.m., Bobby Kennedy arrives at Marilyn's home. Those that heard the tape say the visit starts off amicable, but after a while changes into a more serious one in which he breaks things off with her for good because he says too many people are watching them. After that, Marilyn screams at him to get the hell out of her house. At 9:45 that evening, eyewitnesses saw Kennedy return, and on the tapes it can be heard that there are at least two other voices with Kennedy, and they say they are looking for the red diary. At this point on the tapes, Marilyn is heard very upset, screaming and reinstating her threat to go public. Marilyn and Bobby are heard in a back-and-forth screaming match until Bobby is heard saying, "Give her something to calm her down." Rustling is heard for a while afterward as the house is searched, and Bobby is said to have left without finding the diary. At 10:35 p.m., the housekeeper and handyman discover Marilyn still alive and contact an ambulance and her doctor, Ralph Greenson. The ambulance beats Dr. Greenson to the scene. They find Marilyn still alive, and they insert a breathing tube. Color starts to return to her, and just as she was coming around, Dr. Greenson is said to arrive and takes over, stopping resuscitation, and instead force injecting her in the heart with a giant needle. The ambulance driver claims he witnessed a murder, saying he inserted the needle wrong. He did it at an angle, and it stopped, and when it did, he just forced it through, breaking her rib in the process. The ambulance driver claims at this point 3 people arrived: a police detective, Peter Lawford, and Marilyn's publicist. They wait till 4:25 a.m. to finally call the police and notify them. Now, we saw what motive Bobby Kennedy had, but why would her doctor be involved? Well, it turns out Marilyn was having an affair with him too, allegedly. A document by Dr. Greenson seems to corroborate this affair, and later on in his life, Peter Lawford admitted that Robert Kennedy called Dr. Greenson on the day of Marilyn's death and convinced him that Marilyn planned to expose him as well, and claimed she needed to be silenced. So did Ralph Greenson deliver a fatal shot to the heart on Bobby Kennedy's behalf? Was Marilyn Monroe murdered to keep her quiet and protect a political dynasty? Well, it seems that the crucial time period is between 11:30 when she was murdered and 4:25 a.m. when police are finally notified. This 4 to 5 hour window would have been chaos as they scrambled to arrange the scene. The housekeeper and handyman later on admitted that Peter Lawford had returned, and they had moved Marilyn's body from the guest cottage back to the bedroom, placing her face down and naked on the bed. And at 12:45 a.m., an officer is said to have pulled over Peter Lawford, who had in the car with him Dr. Greason and none other than Attorney General Bobby Kennedy. Then at 4:25 a.m., Dr. Greason calls the police and reports the death. And at 4:45 a.m., the first officer arrives. Jack Clemens is the first officer, and he claims the scene was very suspicious, such as the empty pill bottles that the doctor said she had taken. They were all neatly arranged with their caps still on, and there was no water glass to take them with anywhere to be found. His initial analysis of the scene was murder, but the scene was quickly taken over when other police officers arrived by the very same detective who was with Peter Lawford earlier that night and helped them set the scene. And we all know what happens next. By 11 a.m., her death is ruled a suicide, even though the doctor performing the autopsy found no evidence of pills in her system and was even denied his request for a toxicology report on her body. So with no evidence other than hearsay, her case is closed. And what happened to the red diary? Well, housekeeper Eunice Murray says that she found the red diary and gave it to the coroner's office, but now the existence of the diary is completely denied. So what do you think? Was Marilyn Monroe murdered? Let me know in the comments below. And we'll see you next time right here on Conspiracy Theories and Chill.